It's evening here in Lagos, so I'm going to say good evening. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you all so much for joining. And I'm really hoping that today it will be very valuable for everyone. But I just thought before we start, we can just do a little icebreaker. So, what comes to your mind when you think about public speaking? Fluency and boldness. Why is Slido not showing me the full thing? Okay, sharing an idea, speaking on a stage, speaking to a large group of people. Confidence is there again. Someone says interesting conversation, fluency, impact, fear. Fear is coming up again. Stage fright. Fair enough. I used to feel that way, like my heart would just be doing like giz. I think that's it. Thank you so much. This has been helpful. So let me stop the poll. All right. Good evening again, everyone. And thank you so much, Derek, for that introduction. I usually don't know what to do with myself when people are introducing me. Do I smile? Do I keep a straight face? It was good that my video was off while that was happening. Dara said it all. I love everything about communications, whether it is written, spoken, and I really work with executives, entrepreneurs, and professionals, also organizations to communicate better, to leverage communication principles to achieve their objectives. And in the last 1 year, I've been working really closely with like executives and entrepreneurs to really just communicate their ideas and communicate their messaging to different platforms. So from the poll that we did, public speaking it's not even just about the stage. It's what I'm doing now is public speaking. It can be you have an idea that you want to pitch to a potential investor. How do you communicate it? So you know it in your head. Sometimes you know what it is that you want to say. And how many of us have been in that situation that you know the thing in your head, but you're speaking and like this thing that I'm saying and this thing in my head is like two different things, and the person is confused. The person isn't really getting the heart of what it is that you're saying, but you know your stuff, you know what it is that you want to convey, but there's just something. And it's just really learning the art of clarifying your ideas and being able to communicate your ideas. When you have successfully communicated, this is what happens. You have said something, and the person that you are speaking to, or the people that you are speaking to, understand what you have said in the meaning and context in which you have said it. So if I tell there is something, if my intention is to say, Dara, you look beautiful, but when I now finish speaking, there is like, Adedoyin, it's like you don't like me. How can you be questioning my beauty? I haven't communicated with Dara because I have said one thing, but she has heard another. We process and listen to information based on different filters. So when you're communicating, you need to be able to understand the filters, understand the perspective of your audience, and convey that information in a way that they will comprehend and understand. And comprehension is, I mean, it's something that when I see on Twitter, I'll be like, I see some comments, I'm like, how did you get this from what this person wrote? Because you're like, so there's so much nuance to it. But one thing I really have seen over the years, and I will share with you my own personal journey as well, is that there are people that are gifted communicators. If I see some people, I'm like, how do you do this? Like, they don't really need to prep that much. They just have the gift of the gab. While some of us, we actually do need to prepare, but it is a skill that can be learned. I wasn't like this 10 years ago, being able to articulate confidently, being able to articulate very clearly, but I've been able to develop myself over the years. So I'm just going to be talking to you about mastering your voice today. And then next class, we're going to be doing some exercises, and then I will share some more tips. So we'll talk about the competencies of a good communicator, effective public speaking and presentation skills, and how you can improve your communication skills and abilities. So story time. I think some of you are already used to my storytelling. I like telling stories. So my first public speaking engagement, I was just doing my work as a diligent staff and, just giving it my everything. And then I get an invitation from the branch in Ibadan. So in Ibadan, I think there are about 8 branches across Ibadan. So they sent me a message, oh, we're doing social media weekend, which you can see in this picture. We would like you to come and speak about, I can't remember the topic, whether it was social media for evangelism. I was like, no, thank you. This is not for me. And, so there was a lot of back and forth because, hey, I was the one. So aside from managing the senior pastors, like comms and social media, I was also responsible for the overall comms of all the 12 branches within and outside Nigeria. So the guy was like, who better to talk about this than you? But I was like, you don't understand. I don't speak in public. My work is at the back. You are seeing the effect of my work, and that's it. And then, the senior pastor calls me and says that, look, you're going to have to expect to do some of these things, like even beyond this, that I guess it was even also being prophetic, seeing ahead, saying that I had to get comfortable with sharing what I do. So he just gave me tips, prepped me and all, and I'm going there. And I'm just there, my heart, I'm palpitating, I'm sweating, I'm just like, you can see the oil on my face. I'm like, God, I beg. I'm like, okay, God, please don't let me fall down. And, I did it. And it really went well. I cannot remember what I said right now, but I know that when I got down, people were just saying, thank you so much. I learned a lot and all of that. And that was the first experience of many. When I realized that public speaking was going to be a core part of the work that I do, I had to say to myself, okay, Adedoyin, you have to overcome your fears. While the engagements, they went well, there wasn't any like blunder. I knew that I had to become confident in my ability to speak. And so I started working on that. So I will be sharing some of the tips that I've learned in the journey. So those of you that you feel fear when you think about public speaking, I've been there, I understand, but I want you to know that you can actually overcome that fear. You can also deliver. So sometimes people think, I have to speak a certain way, or I have to be a certain way to be able to speak in public. Not necessarily. You can actually practice and build yourself to what you want to be. So that's my story. At the foundation of this for me is that your voice is important. I believe that God has given us something to say, which is why he has given us a mouth. In your sphere of influence, in the work that you're doing, there's something that you have to say. There's sometimes that some of us, we're in meetings, we have good ideas, but for whatever reason, we choose not to speak up. And that in itself is not great because your ideas are also valid, right? There's something that you can add to a conversation. Every one of us, we have a message that God has given us, and it doesn't have to be a big platform. And I'll say that again, you being confident in what you have to say and the message you have to deliver. In fact, it's better when you even start in small circles. And then the more you do it, it's like a ripple effect, the bigger platforms. Not everybody is going to speak in a big platform, but everybody has some sort of platform that they have access to where they will need to speak. There's speaking involved in everything that we do. And so it's important that we get comfortable with using our voice. And one thing I like about the power of our voice is that through your voice and your ability to communicate, you can move an audience from feeling, believing, and doing one thing to feeling, believing, doing, and thinking something else. And that is the power of influence. I'm sure many of us have had situations where you listen to somebody and you are persuaded by that thing that they are saying. Either you're persuaded by the business idea, you're persuaded by their line of thinking or argument. And that's what is called persuasive communication. And that's because that person has been able to use communication skills, the tactics to be able to bring you over to their side, to their perspective, to their way of reasoning, to get your buy-in. I think somebody put that in the Slido, to be able to get your buy-in at the end of the day. And so I want at this very beginning for everyone to understand that your voice truly, truly is important. And how can you use your voice in your sphere of influence, the place you work, your business? Number one is really to inform, to pass across a message. There's a message that you may need to pass across, either to your stakeholders, either to your audience, either to whoever, but you can use your voice to inform. You can also use your voice to create awareness about an issue, create awareness about something that you're doing or whatever it is in your heart that you want to create awareness about. You can use your voice to advocate. I'm sure we know people that advocate against social causes or about social causes and against social issues. You can use your voice to share your expertise, which is what I'm currently doing. You can use your voice to drive change. You can use your voice to reinforce a narrative. And there's so many other things, but these are just some of the things that I wanted to highlight just to drive home the point that your voice truly, truly, truly is important. So I want you to think about, when it comes to public speaking and communicating your ideas, what are your concerns and what challenges have you faced? So for the people that identified fear, stage fright, I'd just like to hear more. What has been that? What is the concern really? So for me, if you remember the story, my concern and fear was people would just think, who is this girl? What does she have to say? And I wasn't confident in myself in that way. So I had to deal with not being confident, also just deal with the perception of others. Was what I was going to say valuable enough for them to listen? Did I even have the right to be telling them this thing? So I had to walk through all of that. One thing that I think everyone sees is that there are different constraints or barriers. I see them. So I've written here, overcoming the mental blockers, because some of these things are internal. So let's take this point about, okay, there's so much out there. What do I have to say? People are thinking that, oh, there's nothing I can add. Last year, I spoke at a PR conference, the Africa PR conference in Zambia, and I was doing a workshop on strategic communications. And the audience for this particular conference, demographic in terms of age, in terms of years of experience, was on the older side. And I remember being very nervous because I've been teaching strategic communications to my peers or junior professionals, not to senior professionals. So I still asked myself, these people have been practicing for 30 years. Are they doing 12 years? Okay, what exactly do you want to say that is new? What exactly do you want to say that they already know? But what the Lord really helped me to see is that I have a perspective to the knowledge that I have, that God has given me. I have the perspective, I have the expertise, and that is what I am going to share. I have value to give these people. So every room and every platform, every stage that I go to, I don't care whether you're the richest person, I don't care the most settled person, as long as you have invited me, Adedoyin, it means that there's something that you believe that I could give to this platform and this audience. And I also know that I have value to give. But the point really is that it starts with you. The value starts with you. The perception, the confidence, it starts with you and it flows out. Even if you have an audience that is smiling, they're receptive, they're a great audience, if you feel fear, if you feel a lack of self-confidence, it is going to show, and that energy is going to spread across the room. And we've experienced it. The person that you can tell that this person is intelligent, you can tell that this person knows their stuff, but they're stuttering, you can see the lack of confidence, and then there's just that awkwardness. So it really just starts with you. So here are just some of the competencies that really stand out to me and I want you to take away, is to have a clear message. You have it in your head, but it's just not coming out. I find that speaking and writing, they're quite similar. If you want to write something that that is well structured, well articulated, same thing with speaking, you need clarity of thought. If your thoughts are muddled up, it's going to be very, very, very difficult for you to give a compelling presentation, speech, or whatever it is. Same thing applies to writing. You need to have that clarity of thought. What do I want to say? What is the message here? That is the absolute beginning. And I'll share more on this as we go along. You also need to understand the context. This particular presentation, I have done it for university students. I have done it for staff within an organization. I'm doing it here. I don't use the same slides or the same approach. Why? Because the audiences are very, very different. The context of university students is very, very different from employees. I think the last time that I did this was employees that just came on board an organization. So they had a 1-week graduate trainee thing that they did for them. And I had to come and speak to them about this. It was totally different context. The exercises that we did, the points that I raised, but it's still at the end of the day, the heart of what I am saying to you is the same thing that I said to them, but how I communicated it was a bit different than now. And it's very, very important. You must understand your context. And when you understand your context, you are then better able to carry your audience along. If you do not understand your context, you do not know what will work for this audience. So there's the example of humor. like Lillian, I don't think I'm a comedian. I know that I say some things that sometimes people laugh. I'm like, all right, okay, that's funny. But there are some people that if you go and you want to go and be cracking jokes, dead on arrival, they're poker face people. But there is a way that you can engage those people that they would actually be following what you're saying. And there's certain kinds of audiences, e.g., the graduate training team I was telling you about. I knew that I needed to do more fun exercise to keep them active, to keep them participating. The exercises that I did for them, I won't do that in a business context because of the audience or more senior people. So you have to know how to carry your audience along. And some of these things, it comes with practice. Again, this is me. I mean, that story that I shared with you, that was 2017, almost like what, eight years. So I've had to learn, and these things you will have to learn it. Good command of language. Please realize that I didn't say speak in an accent. No, how do I use language? I've been an editor for decades. I believe I speak well, but I still have a book called Strong and Wise, Elements of Writing, Elements of Style. I still go and check words. I still Google and use that icon to say, how is this word pronounced? I still make sure that I read good books. You have to work on your command of language because that is going to help you to express yourself. And you have to be confident and you also have to be comfortable. Confidence is internal. Those fears, maybe they're rational, but a lot of times they're actually irrational. And so you have to think about, okay, what do I need to do to overcome this lack of confidence? Do I need to affirm myself? We pray, we're asking for the help of the Holy Spirit, but you have to do the inner work of building your confidence and getting comfortable with it, getting comfortable with being on a stage, getting comfortable with being. I think the first time I was on a big stage with spotlights on me, I stood in one place and I was staring at the light because I couldn't look at people. There was over 1,000 people in that room and I wasn't expecting it. But you have to get comfortable because your discomfort shows through in your expressions. It shows through in the way you communicate at the end of the day. And the final part, maybe that should be number one, be actually ready and prepared. I had to prepare for this session. I had to say, what is it that I want to communicate? And my own preparation process starts with asking the Holy Spirit, what do you want me to say to this group? Like I said, I've done this presentation so many times. So I literally built the content from scratch for this particular class because I really do avoid doing copy and paste because every audience is different. So I would get ready. I went to go and do more research. So even me that, yes, I have experience in this and expertise, I still went to do some reading, watch some videos to make sure that I'm bringing you up to date current information that you will find useful. So I'm not just regurgitating what I taught in January, but it's relevant for you. So you actually have to be ready. You have to be prepared. And so let's now break this down. The first thing that you need to say is, or you need to ask yourself, what do you need or what do you want to communicate? What is the message? Please be very, very clear. Here, I'm here to teach you about public speaking and communication. My message is that public speaking is straightforward and it can be mastered by anybody. That is my message to you this evening. I'm very, very clear about it. You have to be clear, whatever the context is, whether you're going to speak to an investor, whether you're talking about your expertise, you have to really be clear about what your message is. Why do you need to communicate it? Why am I communicating? Am I communicating because I need to persuade these people to invest? Am I communicating because I want to teach these people? Am I communicating because I want to motivate them? If you want to motivate people, the ginger and the energy you're going to put is going to be very, very different. If you're going to be teaching, it means that you have to keep this audience engaged from the beginning to the end. It means that I have to simplify this in such a way that they will understand because I want to impart knowledge into them. If I want to persuade them to invest, it means that I need to let them see and understand the value proposition of my business or my idea that moves them to take that action to invest. You also need to be very, very clear on that. Who do you need to communicate it to? What are their characteristics? Don't just say investors. Do your research. So, but what do they need? What is their interest? What is their knowledge? The poll that you did at the beginning kind of gave me a context of where people were. If sometimes before an engagement, I will send a pre-engagement survey just to understand my audience, just to understand what it is that they need, so that whatever I'm saying is relevant, because that's what makes people pay attention, relevance to their context and what it is that they need. Where and when do you need to communicate? This is so, so, so important. If this session was very early in the morning, my approach will be a bit different in terms of engagement. This is now later on in the evening. I need to make sure that I'm asking questions. I need to make sure that you guys are still here. Because it's also virtual, the way that I engage has to also be different. Am I doing it on a stage? Is this the kind of stage where the slides will be projected at the back? Am I going to be controlling it with a clicker? I went to present at a conference in Abidjan just a few months ago. And the night before, I had to just look around the stage, just understand the dynamic of how I wanted to communicate. How would I be moving across the stage and where they put me in and my slides? Would it be comfortable? Because how they did it was the podium was on the same level as where the people were sitting. And then the screen was behind. So there was a lot of moving back. And I didn't think that was great for engagement. So I had to figure out, how do I move the slides and speak to the people who are in front of me in such a way that, it's seamless for me. So you have to do that. It's not every time you have the benefit of going to the venue beforehand, but still have an understanding. And I always recommend go to places early. If you're pitching, if you're speaking, try and get to the venue early so that you get a sense and a feel, just get the vibe. There are times where I have prepared something, maybe because sometimes some organizers, like, they don't even know who their target audience is. They say, oh, are they doing? Yeah, these are the people to expect. And I get there. In fact, it was the same thing actually for this graduate trainee program, because I had asked them this question. So she was like, oh, they're just new graduates. They have worked in other places. Because I wanted to get a sense of were these fresh graduates and all. So I got there. I think the session was supposed to start at 8 o'clock. I was there by 7. Me, I like to be punctual. And as they started walking in, and then they started having conversations, I was like, wait a minute. These people are like fresh graduates. So like, this is literally their first job, because they were having conversations and like, I don't know, I was just picking it. So before I started, I was like, okay, I want to have a sense of, so in their intro, so one thing that I always do with the Holy Spirit is to say, how do I open up this presentation? And while people are introducing themselves, he can then say, ask this question or do this. So for this particular group, it was ask them about where they've worked, what they've done in their career journey so far. And when they started talking, maybe only 2 people out of a room of, I think there were about 15 of them, had previous jobs. This majority were just coming from school, just finished NYSC. And that had to change the way that I engaged with them, because I created my content with the thinking of these people have worked in a professional environment before. So you can see these nuances can actually either make or break your presentation. And so you want to think about your location, your date, timing, other modalities. And then what results do you want to see after you communicate? So for me, for this class, is that I want that at least majority, if not everybody, you have a clearer sense of, okay, these are the things I need to put in place to help me communicate better. So I want you to be armed with that information that you can actually use. For some of you, is that you want somebody to invest, you want them to come and buy your product, you want them to visit maybe your website, you want them to come on board in terms of a social issue that you have. But you have to be very, very clear about what results it is that you want to see. Okay, so let's look at some building blocks to help you master your voice. Like I said before, be clear on what you want to say. Please think before you speak. And I know this feels like, Adedoyin, of course I think before I speak, but I mean, really think about it. I was looking for some of my notes from previous engagements so that I can show you my thought process when somebody gives me a topic. This, when they reached out to me to talk about artificial intelligence for content creation. So this was a question: what specific advantages and obstacles do Africans face in adopting AI for content creation? So it's simple one-liners, and please actually write it down. Like I said, there's a link between speaking and writing. So I wrote there, okay, obstacles, AI bias, data that was used for, AI tools. So this is me writing what it is that as I was researching, as I was thinking about it, what I want to say to each question, I'm just writing it in bullet points. On the day of the engagement, I actually didn't. So I had it open, but I didn't even refer to it so much because I had prepared in such a way that I knew what I wanted to say. So that's an idea of what I mean when I say really, really think about what it is that you want to say, and please write it down, pen and paper, or in the voice notes, or actually notepad rather. Put it down, bullet points. This is what I want to say. This is what I want people to get out of it. Even if they call you 5 minutes. I remember I went for an engagement. I didn't think I was going to be able to make it, but I made it last minute. And all of a sudden, someone says, "What are you doing? Please, we want you to just give some remarks about it." I'm like, "Hey, God, I didn't prepare." I just take my notepad. Okay, what do you want to say? They want me to speak about the role that this thing has played in my life. Okay, what do I want to highlight? I mean, I lean on the Holy Spirit. Okay, highlight this, highlight this. I always try to look for a story, because stories are a great way to connect with people. Is there a story that can bring home this point? Is there an example that I can use to bring it to life? And I go with my outline and I go and do the thing. So that gives you a sense of direction. For those of you that struggle with, thoughts all over the place, my brain, just do this exercise. You'll find that it helps you to streamline your thoughts and streamline the things that you want to say. So be clear about your message, and then build your content around your message. The next thing is, mention it before, understand your intended audience. Who are they? Why are they here? So important. Not every engagement is like people are coming to learn. I've spoken to an audience where it's their employers that are forcing them to be in that room. So you can imagine, people are busy. Their employers have forced them to come and listen to this woman talk about one topic that they don't think that they need. That is a hostile audience. But I have to now prepare. I have to now say, okay, Adedoyin, these people don't really care about this topic. How do I make them care? And so I ask questions. I try to like break the ice. I try to connect with them with something, which is why I also like going to places early, because you start building rapport with certain people. So I can call somebody's name, and somehow, maybe in the pre-meeting conversation, someone says something. I was like, "Oh yes, Anita mentioned," and you pull people in. So you have to understand why they are there. What do they need to hear from you? Do they need your expertise? Do they need to know? Do they need clarity on something? What do they need? And what do you want them to do? Very, very important. Do I want them to, at the end of this, engage with me afterwards, buy my book, invest, whatever it is? You have to also be clear. Keeping your audience at the heart of your presentation or speech is very, very key if you want to make your message relevant, if you want to make it impactful, and if you want to make it memorable. The next block is be prepared and be ready. So you do your research. I don't want us to fall into this trap of assuming that, hey, I know this thing, I've been doing this thing for so long, I won't do research. I think when you do research, it opens your mind. We're talking about knowledge. Knowledge really, really brings confidence. I could have said, oh, this presentation, I've done it so many times, I'm just going to pick one of the slides and come here. But no, I have to find what's current best practice. What are additional things that will help me to help you? And I learned a few things as I was even doing my research and putting together my content. Plan how your content is going to look like. If you're going to create slides, make your slides very beautiful. Me, I take my time to work on my slides. My slides have to be visually attractive. Some people say I'm obsessed with slides. I'm like, yes, because why are people looking at boring slides or slides that are filled with so much text? My head, I have a headache. It affects your communication because I can't pay attention to what you are saying. So plan your content, plan the flow. And when you think about it, you think about how will this thing flow? So if I start with this, and you have to give yourself time. If I start with, okay, this, does it flow into this next section? Okay, maybe we'll do an exercise here. Or maybe at this point, I will put a quote. Maybe I will show a video. Maybe I will do this. And then you play around with it to make sure that, okay, how can I deliver this content in the best way? And you also learn from other people. Have a flow to guide your thoughts. I've said it before. Bullet points. Don't go into any speaking engagement without having rough bullet points of what it is that you want to say, so that in the time that your mind is muffled or you're thrown off balance, just look at that little paper or your phone and see the points that you want to put there. When I'm training executives for media engagement, we have what we call key messages. Someone was asking about, if they ask you a question, that you can't really answer. Sorry, I can't remember the question exactly. But in the context of media training, sometimes live interviews, you may be asked a question that either for confidentiality reasons as a business owner, you cannot answer, or you just actually do not know the answer. What you do is you know your key message, and your key message is the messages I want these people to know about my organization and what it is that I do. So they ask you a question like, I can't authoritatively speak to this question that you have asked me, but what I know is that we're making efforts to make sure that our safety record is XYZ. So maybe they say you should give statistics on the latest world safety records, and you just don't know it. I cannot speak authoritatively about the world statistics, but what I can say is that our commitment as an organization is to keep ensuring that we put in place the best practice for safety within what we do and for our or our employees. So you have acknowledged the question, but you have taken that question away from the thing you don't know to what you do know, which is your key message. But that in itself is an entire topic. That's the same thing with regards to your question. It doesn't really look good for you to say, I don't know. So you find a very polished way to say, I can't speak to that, or while I can't comment authoritatively on that, what I can say, and then you say what you can say. So there's a technique to that. But again, that comes with practice for those of you that may be interested in learning that. And so what are the tips for your content? It must be necessary. Please don't share content and information that is not necessary for your audience. You're going to lose them. You must speak to your audience's needs and wants. Try and do some research. Try and understand what it is that they need or want. It's not always possible. So the last engagement I was telling you about the AI thing, obviously I didn't know it was a big tech conference. So all I just knew was that these people were interested in tech and AI. I didn't have a sense of demography, and there were all sorts of people there. But at least I knew that they were content creators that wanted to learn how to use AI. So you need to know something about your audience. Be prepared. Please spend time preparing. Don't take it for granted, even if it's a topic that you speak on about over and over and over again. And then you must meet the goals of why you are speaking or presenting. Am I here to showcase my expertise? Am I here to convince or convert or advocate? Make sure that it meets your goals, and please always deliver value. And I think this point about value is one of the reasons why I go the extra mile when I'm presenting or when I'm speaking to people, is to say, what is the value that I am adding to this conversation? So if you feel like this topic has been overflogged, people are talking about it, I'm not the first person that is going to speak on public speaking, but I know that I have unique insights that I have learned, that I have taught people and they have used, which is what I'm sharing with you. I know that I'm giving you value. So you must always think about that. And that's something that helps you to also deliver confidently when you know that you are delivering value to your audience. The next one is think about the main points that you want people to take away. You've thought about your speech or your presentation, what it is that you want to say, how you want to go about it. So think about it in your head from start to finish. What is the flow? How would I like this thing to go? And then focus on your opening. Let me tell you, if your opening is bad, it's going to be very difficult, because now people are now like, does this person really know what she's saying or what he's doing? So you have to think about your opening. How do I want to open? How do I want to break the ice? I love to use storytelling. I love to ask a question. I love to ask people to do something, bring in some fun element to it, something that makes them calm down, get everybody in that space with me. But it has to be appropriate for your audience. How will you open? Very, very, very important. Even if you're delivering a speech, you can decide to go and say, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much to the organizers for inviting me here. It's so interesting for me to be speaking on this stage, because 5 years ago, I used to dream about what it would be like to stand here. And here I am today, really standing here. And it's such a remarkable moment for me that I do not take for granted. This topic that you have given to me is one that speaks to XYZ. I mean, how many of us have ever been in this situation where, and then people raise their hands, and then you're sharing authentically, but you are breaking the ice as well. Not that you just come and say, okay, yeah, so I'm going to be talking to you about how and I used to have that problem. Oh, I speak so fast. I just want to say what I want to say and get off that stage and get out. But it not really helped me. So focus on your opening, engage, connect. That's a good connecting point when you first start out. Repeat the main points creatively. So you will notice that in this presentation, there's some things I have said a number of times, but I'm saying them creatively and in different ways. The reason why is that our minds when things are repeated, we actually take it in subconsciously. If you think about certain adverts, and for those of us that we commute in, if you're in Lagos, and there's no traffic in Abuja, but if you're in Lagos, traffic, the radio is on, there are some adverts that you did not intentionally go and learn the lyrics, but you can hum that particular advert. Why? Because that radio station can be played over and over again. And so you have to repeat it creatively. And then the final thing is that you close with a bang. How do you finish? How do you wrap it up? How do you make sure? And your closing is a key time to reiterate some of the main points and the things that you want to take away, because more likely than not, they're not going to remember what you said at the beginning. More likely than not, maybe for those that are really paying attention, maybe they remember what you said in the middle, but the end, you can highlight the important things that you need them to take away. So if you start off your presentation or speech well, you're likely to continue in that pattern. Now, the challenge is you start well and then you now begin to overthink or you start getting nervous. So as Bimpe was saying, you're looking into the audience, they are frowning their faces, they are not. Stay on scripts. That's the best you can do at that point, because at that particular time, you cannot figure out why these people are frowning. What's going to happen is that you are now concocting things in your head. Hey, am I saying rubbish? Hey, was it? There's nothing I can do in that. And I've been in that kind of situation, but it is out of my control what it is that they're thinking. I do not know. When I feel like I'm speaking and these people, their faces are a bit hard, I would then pause to say, any questions so far? Or I would say something to just get them to speak. Could you please share an experience? Maybe I'm doing a training or I'm speaking. I would just do something at that so that I know that, because some people, they just have hard faces, right? They don't intend to be hostile. But I cannot now come and be concocting things, because that would throw you off balance. Stick to the script, but see what you can do even in that time to maybe ask a question, maybe putting something that will cause them to engage. Don't allow yourself to have those, oh, maybe they're this. No, it's not within your control. What's within your control is the content that you've created and prepared, which I believe is already relevant and valuable. So it's to say, okay, do I ask a question? What can I do to bring in some sort of engagement? Yeah, so that's a tip for those of us that will need that. And then find stories and message supports to bring your story to life, or to bring your points to life, rather. You don't want to give a speech or a presentation. You are just talking, just sharing facts. They're going to forget. Stories help us remember. A lot of you are going to remember the story of me hiding under the table. Stories really, really does help us. Quotes, examples that people can relate with. And the thing about when you give example is that people can say, oh, that also happened to me. And then I also give room for people to share their example depending on the context. That sometimes you're giving a keynote speech that you cannot ask people for examples. But even when I'm giving keynote speeches, I get people to raise their hands. I say things that I will see people nodding in agreements, like, oh, they relate. That's what examples and stories do. And that helps you to also break the ice as well. You need to have data and stats. If you want to persuade, if you want to convert people to a particular idea, you need data and stats. You can't be talking to me about, oh, your business is going to be good. I don't have stats. There's no data to back this assertion. So again, you can see all of this comes with preparation. So when you have your main points, you look, okay, can I put a story here? What example? You look at your own example because you want it to be authentic, or an example of somebody that I know, which maybe is not a confidential thing that I can share. But I also think about examples that the people, the audience can relate with, so it doesn't fly above their heads. And then think through and be intentional about your delivery. This is where the practice now comes. Your audience engagement tactics. Some people use humor as audience engagement tactic. I don't. I cannot deliberately try to crack a joke. It's not going to work. Yeah. But I know what sits well with me or what I can do authentically. Make it a two-way dialogue. Ask questions, interact, get them to participate by showing their hands, by doing something. There's just so many ways to just make them involved in what you're saying, and then make it interactive as well, as much as you can. Because there are certain settings where if you're speaking on like a government setting where you're giving an address, it's just you to them. But there are things you can put in your speech that makes people connect with it. So you think about how best within this context can I engage and can I carry my audience along? Engaging messages stick, engaging presentations, they're meaningful and they're also very, very memorable. And so here are some tips for your delivery. It must be appropriate for the audience and the context. We've talked about this a lot, so I will not touch on that too much. Project your voice and speak confidently. I used to speak really, really, really fast. In fact, I think I still speak fast, but I've learned to pause and pace myself as I speak, because I will speak and then I see people have this jaded look on their face, like, what did this girl just say? So like, I now have to start repeating myself. And how did I learn to slow my pace? I use my voice notes. So I would say whatever I want to say. So if maybe I'm delivering a speech, maybe 15 minutes, I will read it. I'll say, okay, Adedoyin, now say this thing here, pause when you say this, pause, breathe, and say. So I can, if I want to present this, I can say it must be appropriate for the audience and the context. You must project your voice and speak confidently, avoid ums and word filters. Or I can say it must be appropriate for the audience and context. Project your voice, speak confidently, avoid ums and other word fillers. Can you see? I have slowed down my pace by pausing. Pausing for a few seconds is not bad. I don't know, when you tell people to pause, it's like, I have to be saying something. No, you don't have to be saying something. And also that works when you feel like you're going off point. Pause to regather your thoughts. Pause, look at your notes, center yourself and continue. And that's okay. No sense of awkwardness. It's better for you to take that pause. Not that the pause will not be too long, or you moderate pause, but pause, center yourself and keep going rather than just continue to, you will find that you're stuttering and just speaking all over the place. Avoid ums and word fillers. This is something I'm also still learning, but it's getting better. If you listen to a presentation and somebody saying, okay, this, that's that, it's very, very, very distracting. One way to avoid that is pausing, and it comes by practice. So record yourself speaking and listen to yourself. Some of you need to try it. I'm giving you an assignment. Record yourself. I say, oh, I'm saying this word too much. Why am I saying too much? We have those things that we just say unconsciously a number of times. And I have it too. Sometimes I listen to my voice note. I'm one of those people that I send podcasts as voice notes. And you were just saying, Why so many you knows? So you need to be able to like think, how do I reduce it? Because it can be distracting. Gesticulate naturally, but not excessively. So you're playing with your hands. Some of us is out of nervousness. So I used to have these nervous tics that I would want to, if I'm very nervous, I would start tapping. I had to learn how to do it to reduce it, do it in a way that is not visible. And then I've stopped doing it. I don't remember the last time I did it, but it also comes with self-awareness. What are your nervous tics? Do you start, if you have, you're rolling your hair, because those things are really distracting and take away from what you're saying. So when you notice that you have them, the assignment now is, how do I reduce it? Then how do I completely stop? Because if you're used to doing something, to immediately eliminate it is going to be tough. So build systems to help you stop. So what I started doing was, I would make sure that I would stand behind the podium or something, and then I'm tapping silently there. But I was watching something. I was watching a press conference, and before they had started, the person didn't know that the microphones were on, and he was tapping on the table, and we could hear the pop, pop, pop. I was like, oh God, these are the effects that we don't even realize. So the guy was just tapping away, not knowing that the mic was on and picking up that dun, 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 dun. I don't know if he was nervous. So, some things we do out of habits. So you have to be self-aware. If you use slides, I talked about this, and ensure that they are visually appealing. Don't put too much text on a slide. Nobody can read it. It's not helpful for anybody. Visuals work because most people would like visuals. Draw people in by asking them questions. Ask them to do something. Use humor if you are comfortable with it. If you are not comfortable with it, it's okay. You don't have to be funny. You'll find that you say something that people will laugh. That's nice, but don't now try to forcefully crack a joke. I've not seen it end well. Okay, the final part, practice some more, but never cram. The tip to this thing is, when you have a speech engagement, whether it's Instagram Live, Zoom, stand in front of your mirror and deliver what you want to say. So after you have written it down on your paper or notepad, present as if you want to speak. Your mirror is your audience. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adedoyin Jaiyesimi, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about the art of public speaking. As you are speaking in front of the mirror, you are recording yourself speak on your voice notes so that you are looking yourself in the mirror. Sometimes you can even video yourself if you want to do it so that you can pick up your nuances in terms of how you're moving. But speak, because that practice does something to you. So you're standing. Another thing is, it also helps you to know, how do you want to move? I'm not someone that uses movement. I don't move too much when I'm speaking because it's very distracting for me. So I look at, if I have a podium or the lectern, I usually will stand there from the beginning till the end. But sometimes it can be boring. So I try to move a bit, but I can't move. You know, some people that they're speaking, they will start on the left side of the stage. Before you know it, they have moved to the right side. Then you find them in the middle of the others. Me, I cannot do it. So I find out, how do I bring variety, even though I don't like too much movement, because it is very distracting for me. So when you practice in front of the mirror, you're able to know. You practice with your paper. If you're giving a speech, practice with the speech written down, practice without the paper. Have you been in rooms where maybe they are using their tab and something goes wrong? They cannot deliver that speech again because, well, yeah, they were leaning on it, or they have crammed it word for word. And that's why I'm saying don't cram. If you cram it word for word and you mistakenly forget one word, everything just vanishes. But if you have bullet points with your flow of thoughts, you know that, okay, after I talk about content, I'm going to talk about engagement, then I'm going to talk about delivery. The words that I use, you can see here, I don't have notes. All these things that I'm saying, I'm just speaking, but I know the flow in my head. I'm going from content, I'm going to engagement, I'm going to delivery. So even if I forget what I'm saying, what's the next point? The next point is on delivery. What do I want to say about delivery? I have bullet points that I do that for my YouTube videos as well. So record yourself, use your mirror, and then if you can, get feedback from people that they will give. Some people are not very nice with their feedback, but if you feel like you need it, get feedback, but spend time and practice. Don't take it for granted. There are sometimes there are certain presentations that I will actually present from the beginning to the end as part of my practice. For some things, because I'm very familiar with the topic, or I've done it so many times, which is mastery, I don't need to do that. But if it's something new or something that sometimes the Holy Spirit will just say, practice from beginning to the end. May I just do it? So please don't, and real life practice. Well, even if it's impromptu, just say, okay, these are the words I'm going to say. Okay, I'm going to say, like, okay, I'm going to use, and you will find that it will make a difference. So looking at improving your communication skills and abilities, and I'll open for questions in a bit, mindful of time. Watch top TED Talks. There are so many videos. By the next class, in the slides that I will share, I've put links. I created like a resource page. I like to share resources and things that people can take away. So the number of videos I've recommended, just go and watch them. Go and watch how people speak. It's how I learned to improve myself. Okay, I like the way this person is doing this. There's some things that some people do. I can't do it. It's not me. Authenticity is very important, but you can learn from how people are communicating. Oh, I like how she simplified that. I like the energy. Practice with speaking prompts and record yourself speaking. So Google speaking prompts and just speak, random topics and then practice with it. Join speaking clubs such as Toastmasters. I joined Toastmasters rather briefly, but it was a very good experience for me because there's always a speech, there's always something to prepare for. So if you're someone that in your role, you're going to be speaking very frequently, you might benefit from that. I do coaching as well for certain people, but on a limited basis. But you can find speaking coaches, especially for those of you that you want to learn how to articulate better, vocal variety. Have we been in rooms where somebody is speaking in that same tone? It feels like the person is just, I don't know how to explain it. Your mind is like, hey, guy, intonate or, animate here, because it's just like flat. Self-awareness helps. And sometimes we don't know we have these things until somebody listens to us actually speaking. Or sometimes you realize it when you listen to yourself speak. This is why I'm telling you to record yourself speaking and listen to your voice. And step out in a safe space. You actually get better by doing. And that's something that has really, really helped me. So when I got comfortable after doing those engagements in church, they actually did call me to do exhortation on Sunday service. I was like, am I a pastor? Which one is exhortation? But I started, putting myself forward when I realized that, look, Adedoyin, this is going to be a core part of your work. God is going to open more platforms, get comfortable. At small circles, I'll volunteer to give the opening remarks, to do the welcome address, something like that. Very, very like low pressure type environment to get comfortable with just speaking in front of a large group of people. So you can do some of these things. Thank you very much, everyone.